What's going on, people?
Hey.
Hey there. Well, why don't we, while we've got, looks like we've got a good group here. Maybe we can pause our updates and maybe we should go around and do a quick round of introductions since we've got some new folks on the call. And I'll go ahead and start. I'm Eric. I'm one of the co-founders of JournoDAO, and I'm a working journalist, science and tech, and increasingly blockchain. And I am a bachelor this week, I guess. And I think that's it. And maybe I will throw it over to Crystal to go next.
Hello, I'm Crystal. One of the core members at JournoDAO. I'm a former photojournalist, started in 1996. Been in blockchain since 2017. I'm also finishing my undergrad in yoga and do all the things. So I will throw it over to Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I'm a writer, and I also teach people how to craft stories, mainly around either job pivots or just taking the stage. And so really have a lot of respect for everyone that's like really in this group. So I'm here for the ride. To Maddie.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Matti Greenspan. I'm the founder and CEO of Quantum Economics. We're a firm that does research, advisory, and money management in the crypto space. We have a lot of interesting entrepreneurs with us and a lot of resources. So looking forward to seeing what you guys got for us today.
Mad props on the baby on the Zoom call. Very cute.
Thank you. Number 4.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you go and take the mic, Keith?
Oh yeah, Keith Axline. I'm a software developer in Portland, Oregon. Yes, co-founder of JournoDAO with Eric. That's his brainchild, his baby. And yeah, I spent 10 years in media and journalism at Wired Magazine and Medium.com, and then I became a software developer for the past 8 years or so. And yeah, doing most of the IT web stuff for JournoDAO. Let's see, Claudio, do you want to go? Are you able to?
Yeah. My name is Claudio. I just joined JournoDAO last week, so new here. Journalist, worked in investigative journalism in Latin America, Chile in specific, doing like health and human rights. And yeah, 1 year ago co-founded the Dream Machine, which is a project working in Latin America, where we're now focusing in like block technology impact perspective in Latin America. Yeah, so very happy to be here. And living in Bristol, UK.
We got you're breaking up a little bit, Claudia, but I think I know I got the gist of that. And I'll welcome Miles, who just joined. Hey, Miles, good to see your name on a black screen. And we're just going around and doing a quick round of introductions. If you're in a place where you could speak.
Hey there.
There he is.
Hello. Poorly lit here, aren't I? Oh well. I am in Portland, Oregon. I was in the Bay Area for years and years until September. I have a background in print journalism and then websites, music magazine, and a tech magazine, regional magazines in California. And served years doing time in the music business. And recently been involved in DAO Planet, which is how I know Eric. And from there, here. And I bring to JournoDAO maybe something of value, which is the publishing, financial, business, advertising side.
Awesome. Glad to have you in the room again.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And Nick, I think you're the caboose, man. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, I'm Nick. I spent a lot of the bull market period kind of helping people get jobs in cryptocurrency and kind of teaching people how all this blockchain stuff works. And I've spent the last maybe 6 months networking with journalists to try to get these stories from on-chain analysis into journalism. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a quick screen share. So this is our newsletter that went out earlier today. And just to kind of rehash what Keith said at the top, but before I started recording and before we did our introductions, which is that so yesterday we finally launched our founder NFT and almost instantly had our first founder OG mint that NFT. So that was both actually unexpected. It wasn't pre-planned. So that was a nice surprise. As Keith said earlier, that came from Evan Hansen, who I originally know as an editor of Wired way back. I think he was executive editor-in-chief, and now is at Twitter and also working with Keith on Factland DAO, which is a partner project that we've been, well, if not working directly with, we work with Keith, who is on the team over there, so it feels like we work with them.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add there, Keith?
No, just that I'm pretty excited to see this get off the ground. And, I was assuming that we would just kind of let this, languish for a little bit. So it's nice to actually have somebody genuinely interested and jump on there. I know, I didn't pressure him at all or even talk about it with him. And I think he's just genuinely excited about JournoDAO and wants to support it. So I think that's exactly who we're trying to get to mint these things. And then, I'll just say we're already talking about how we can get people who can't afford the 2 ETH, which I think includes everyone on this call, perhaps it includes me, how we can get us some sort of either gifted NFT or maybe an actual founder NFT, or maybe come up with a second tier, and then maybe there's also this idea of a Journo token later on that we'll probably talk about that might feed into that. But we are thinking about it. We are in the same group as anyone who is feeling like this price is too high. So this is really just for people, who have the resources and want to be a founder, get us off the ground, get us some resources. And then there will be other opportunities to support JournoDAO down the line.
And it comes with the benefit of basically having access to anything we ever produce. So it's not necessarily just a donation. So it would potential benefits we've thought about include access to all IRL events that we put together, and we're doing our first one in September is currently the plan in LA. You automatically get a subscription to any subscription services that we may launch in the future, and whatever, all benefits accrue to the founder NFT holder therein, I think is the basic idea.
Yeah, it'll be a no-brainer soon, but right now it is a little bit of a leap of faith on us and the team, but I think we're gonna make it super valuable.
Yeah, and and a sliding scale to come in the
Right.
future, perhaps. We should say that there would only be like 200 available. So we have 200 set aside as reserve that could be either giveaways or like discounted. So like half giveaways or sliding scale, right?
Correct. And
Hey, sorry for the intrusion. If I want to share news or something like that, can I do that through JournoDAO, or like if I want to leak something to the press or provide commentary, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're kind of just starting up right now. We have our first project, like we have a blockchain investigative project where we're actually doing blockchain analysis, like Nick was talking about, and turning those into stories. But in terms of like trying to, in terms of putting something out to the community, I mean, I think that the Discord server would be the place for that. If there were a tip or something to pitch that wasn't necessarily that involved and it needed a blockchain analyst. Is that what did you have in mind?
Not much, just like because we have a pretty strong relationship with the press, and we often provide analyst commentary or stuff that we're doing, which is press-worthy or research reports that get press coverage and stuff like that. So the question is like, how do we use you guys as a research to get the word out? I guess what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not like in terms of, it's something we haven't discussed yet, in terms of, putting together something like kind of sounds like you're looking for something kind of like along the lines of like a business wire, like a PR news wire type thing, or to get like, your research reports in the hands of journalists. Is that the idea?
Okay, thanks a lot.
Did anyone else have any other brainstorming or thoughts on that?
Just that we could, create a Discord channel specifically for that type of news. I don't know that we have anyone who would like pick it up and run with it for a story at this point, but it'd be good to set up that pipeline. And Maddie, are you aware of PubDAO? And Eric,
What? Sorry, can you hear you?
Are you aware of PubDAO?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Eric, would that be more along the lines of what he's talking about? Perhaps?
Yeah, it's closer in terms of, PubDAO is more of like a service DAO with writers and editors, who are there to put together content either on hire or through tips for like more journalistic content. Whereas JournoDAO, we're not quite up to speed of like offering. We have our own blog, we have our own like publication, but the model
is that
here,
where you're looking to go though? So like, just I want to understand if I'm in the right group.
so like the basic concept here is kind of a three-pronged beast of first trying to educate people who are from the Web3 world about maybe what they're missing about the media side of things, and educate traditional media people what they're missing about the Web3 side of things. And then also the organization exists as a professional network to kind of catch those people as more traditional media people as they begin to explore Web3. And then kind of the third prong is
Eric, I appreciate it. I'm on your newsletter now.
Mhm.
Also feel free to get on our newsletter at quantumeconomics.io so you can see what kind of updates, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. And then if ever you want to do some kind of collaboration, just let me know. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for stopping by. All right.
I really appreciate the way you guys are really clear about, you know, what it is JournoDAO does actually, because it really helps people kind of filter through if this is the right landing spot right now.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's something I've noticed that you guys do really well in terms of not pushing things away, but also not, you know, trying to be everything. So as far as this group. So anyway, it would be great to be all, but I think, you know, foundationally, it's strong to be able to say at the moment, not this moment, we're not doing that.
I think that's probably the most common misconception I see too, is people dropping by or joining just, or even in the applications that come through on the Google form, like it's pretty clear that a lot of people are looking for what they assume is a publishing outlet, is like a Web3 media outlet, which PubDAO is close because it's kind of under the umbrella of Decrypt, so it's, you know, attached to a media outlet. But yeah, I'd say it's a common misconception, and it makes sense. I mean, you hear a group of Web3 journalists, and it's a fair assumption. So I have no idea what I was talking about before. Oh, were we still on the founder NFT? Okay. So yeah, I mean, right. I think we're looking to make that NFT available to, you know, people who are hardcore supporters, whether they have, you know, the ETH or not. And then, you know, further down the road, there's other options to explore. You know, I've seen other DAOs do a thing where they have like tiers of founder NFTs. You know, like one is kind of the platinum version, and then you have a gold version or something that is, you know, half as much, 10% as much. So I could see that being a way we could go, you know, at some point down the road.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, in my mind, it's kind of formulating like who those 200 that we've set aside might be for. And I think, you know, if you feel like you whether you're an academic or studying, or you're in the journalism space, and, you know, having access to all of the stuff that we do would be, like, you know, beneficial to what you're trying to accomplish. And then you would also bring something to, like, the JournoDAO community, and, you know, you want to make some sort of like long-term commitment to like the community, like in exchange for the access, then I think that would be, like, you know, part of the proposal or part of the application process. But we'll probably hash that out. We'll probably need to do that like in some sort of textual like collaboration, just so the details are clear.
Right. Let's see. Does anyone else have just kind of any general updates on anything else on the agenda? Well, I need to send somebody else the link to this meeting. So whoever wants to take the floor for a minute.
Did you have an agenda? Is it?
I was just going through the newsletter.
Oh, okay.
I'll mention something. This is Miles. I'll mention something I'd love to hear more about. Was Keith threw out the idea of supporting, oh great, now I'm going to space on the name, the author who's doing the Trump financial research. David Alexander?
Adam Davidson.
Adam Davidson, that's it, thank you. And I would love to see where that could go.
Yeah, tell me more about that. How do you think?
I like the idea. I wondered whether JournoDAO could create maybe it's even creating a Kickstarter kind of funding in Adam's name for him.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of him putting that out there I need money, please support me. We just create the support.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping to, I don't know, spark when I put that out there. I personally can't like spearhead it, but I do think like the JournoDAO like incubator framework that we've slowly been assembling could take on something like that. I know that David Burt, who was an early contributor to JournoDAO, I think he went off to do, is it Flashlight, Eric?
Right.
There's a lot of I think this concept isn't new necessarily of, there's this investigative project that a lot of people would probably support, but it doesn't have a way to get funding in the traditional sense. And so I think we could partner with people who are already doing that, but then also, come up with a playbook for how we can get those resources for projects that we believe in, since we're kind of in a unique area right now where we're not beholden to anybody. We don't need to like make sure it gets this amount of page views. We don't need to find sponsors. We don't, I think there's unique investigative projects that we can get behind that are important for the world, but not, necessarily like they don't make sense in the current business environment.
What about using our mirror to do a crowdfund? We can do a crowdfund through Mirror. We can do it through the JournoDAO Mirror account.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I will mention, Miles, through our blockchain investigations unit, which is a partnership with DiamondDAO that Crystal and Nick and I have been working on for the last month. One of the things that we did initially look into is the crypto transactions of let's just say some Trump allies.
Right.
Yeah. So not exactly the same thing as the Adam Davidson thing, but it's something that like we're experimenting with, and I could personally see like maybe once we've got that firsthand experience under our belt, it could make, with some results to show, it could make that crowdfunding effort like that, more successful.
Is there an individual or a team from JournoDAO that is actually spearheading the actual journalistic research?
Crystal, Nick, and I have been working on that.
And do you have, like, how close to reporting something are you?
So part of the partnership, because this is we have a partnership and funding from DiamondDAO, and so it's kind of there's two parts to the partnership, and one is the idea is that we're using, they have a new they're developing basically like a blockchain research platform, and it's still under development. So we're basically helping them develop it, doing some initial data entry through our work. And then once that's all built out, then the idea is that we would be using that platform to both conduct some of the research, and then it has like a visualization tool that can go into stories towards the end. So that's a long answer to say that the initial plan was August. I'm not entirely sure if like when in August, or if that's going to happen, because we've got to get through kind of the other initial phase of helping them build out the platform itself. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Let me ask a specific part of it. Has any actual journalistic research been done yet, or is it all just test case of like, if we were to do this, this is how we would do it?
Yes, some research has already been done.
Okay. And when you said August, you mean August is when more active research would happen, or August is when there might be actually something to publish?
August is when there might be something to publish. And I actually, I feel like that's probably, we were supposed to have a meeting with the JournoDAO folks to sync up yesterday, and that got delayed. So I would have better information for you after our next meeting. But tentatively, August is when we could be publishing something.
Okay, and I'm naive. I don't know who exactly JournoDAO is.
JournoDAO is, it is founded by a couple of people in the data science world. And I was kind of aware of one of them because one of them is in Santa Fe down the road from me, and I was kind of already aware of him before even getting into DAOs. So their co-founders are like tied into the data science and also the intelligence. One of them has a background in intelligence, and so they're basically building a data intelligence platform specifically for Web3. So I've heard them refer to it as, trying to build like a Google of Web3.
Okay, so now, and relating that to Adam Davidson, well, that becomes like another avenue of data research done that could assist Adam or be reported by Adam, or right, but it's not necessarily supporting Adam to be able to continue the research Adam's been doing. Right, so there still is a need, could be a need for crowdfunding, as I don't know, was Jennifer the one that just mentioned that?
Crystal.
Crystal, okay, great, sorry, but thank you.
So Miles, I think the first thing that would need to happen is just to get Adam on board with it. Would you be willing just to like try and get a response from him? And
I'll take that on, yes.
okay, and then try and get a list of resources that he needs, and then even if he's busy, we could take it from there.
When you say resources, what are you referring to?
Like if he's ever drawn up a budget for what this would require, like how many people he thinks it needs, like time, how long.
Right, okay, great. You're talking about financial needs, got it.
Yeah, or like, other reporters or expertise that he needs.
Well, it all still comes down to money, got it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sorry if I'm being too coarse, but.
No, that's one way to look at it.
Cool.
Just want to take a quick moment and welcome Ryan to the call. I think Ryan, you might be the person I just sent the link to over Twitter DM. If you're in a place where you can unmute and just introduce yourself real quick, that'd be great, but no pressure if you're not.
Yeah, thanks for the link. I just involved in a couple DAOs, City DAO and a smaller DeSci project called DeSci World. And your project just kind of popped up on my radar, and it seems really cool. So just want to learn more.
Awesome, cool. Glad you could join us. I like a lot of the DeSci projects. I'm lurking in a lot of those Discord servers because I think what's being worked on there will probably kind of pave the way for some of the stuff that we're hoping to build, because journalism tends to be similar. It's like the less rigorous cousin of science. So I find there's a lot of inspiration and good templates to follow from those kind of projects.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And something I've noticed is in the space, obviously, there's a ton of people chasing money, NFTs, everything. Me personally, I'm more interested in projects that want to build something that is valuable, not just in the monetary sense, but sort of like a public good or just something cool. And I feel like a lot of the DeSci projects kind of have that in mind. And this the JournoDAO project kind of seems to fit that bill. I don't think you're going to get a bunch of people just seeing this as quick money to be made.
We feel the same way, which is why we decided to launch an NFT in like the absolute doldrums of a bear market, when there was as little degen activity as possible. That was the goal, to when there is few people around to potentially speculate on it or whatever. So I think we succeeded. Yeah, well, welcome and glad to have you, Ryan. So let's see. So if there's yeah, so on the Adam Davidson thing, I will say I've had we did an interview with him with DAO Planet like way back in the day last year, and I've had another interaction with him through a mirror roundtable, but other than that, he's in the server, he's in the JournoDAO server, but he's been pretty unresponsive to everything else, and I think is who knows, wrapped up in whatever things he's got going on. But if you succeed in getting in touch with him and connecting with him, Miles, I think that would be interesting to see where that goes.
Got it. Great. And to Ryan's comment, let me note, we should be alarmed if anybody shows up at JournoDAO with the intention that they're going to make some quick money. Like I look forward to interacting with those people and find out what misinformation I got.
You'd be surprised. There's we have an application form to get access to the Discord server, and people do actually essentially say they're interested because they just want to invest in whatever we end up producing, whatever tokens we end up throwing out there. Like some people just straight up say it on the application, and those are like the only people that I don't push through. So yeah, but I appreciate the honesty. So
right, and we could respond saying, "Great, we interpret invest as meaning donate."
Yeah, right. Yeah, should just add the donate button. So one announcement I just wanted to make really quick is that so we will be doing another a live event, or I should say we'll be not presenting a live event, but we've been invited to present at a conference called Media Party, and it is in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And let's see, maybe I can bring up the screen here. And so this is a pretty cool thing. It's been going on for the last 10 years. And so it's put together by a group called Hacks and Hackers, which has chapters around the world. They predate Web3, so it's all kinds of tech. And I've actually interacted with these folks before. So and the conference has it's interesting. It's sponsored actually by Facebook, is one of the main sponsors. But we are going through the Web3 track that we'll be participating in is sponsored by Decentraland and the International Center for Journalists. So it's going to be an interesting meeting of both the Web2 and the Web3 minds. Google also has a pretty big presence there. And so this is the end of August in Argentina, and I'll be putting together some sort of a keynote once I have a better sense of who the audience is going to be and how Web3 or news literate they're going to be. And then also there is space to do a workshop, and then they asked that whoever goes actually also help as a mentor to an 8-hour hackathon that they're going to do on the last day. So it's a pretty full 3 days there, and as you can see, there's a whole lot of Web2 and traditional media folks there, both from academia and Fox and Google and The Guardian and all sorts of places. So I think it's a really good opportunity to make those Web3 and traditional media connections and kind of, spread the gospel of JournoDAO a little bit. So that's coming up the end of August, and it's official as of this morning. So just wanted to announce that. And I also mentioned in the newsletter that we may be looking to send some folks to Denver around the time of MCon 2, which is early September. And I don't know if you're in the Telegram group, Crystal, but I did get confirmation earlier today that none of the official acceptances have gone out. So the fact that the fact that nobody knows who's going yet is everyone's in the same boat apparently. But there's a lot of encouragement to go and like have your own side event and let them know if you're having side events. So they encourage people to be in Denver, whether or not you've been accepted or not. So, and I think that was your experience last year, right, Crystal? That even if you weren't in the main event, there was plenty going on around town.
Yeah, I was in classes, but my boss and a colleague from Unlock were in town just for that, and they weren't in the main event. They were just going around to all the other things, and they got so many connections and experiences. They loved it. So yeah, I just say show up, and then let's do something cool.
For sure. And Jennifer, I've been trying to push as many people as possible to the Telegram group you created, since now we kind of have, if that's like a Web3 media group, and now we've got 2, potentially like 3 cities that we're going to have a presence in at some point. I've been trying to push people there just as a place to discuss, whether it's like discuss what's going on or getting meetups going in these cities where we're getting together. So I appreciate you setting that up. It's been a cool resource to direct people to.
I think that maybe we should just change the title and actually recreate the intention, because at the moment it looks like it's just for the LA event. So that would actually be a lot better in building a really strong community if we're covering many events. And so it wouldn't just be all driving towards LA. If that's the case, I think that like we can include media party. You said MCon, is that what it is? And
O&A is
and and so then that way it becomes way more about, how these NFT groups are, metaverse groups are. It's more about Web3 journalists and journalism. And, are you guys going to the next thing? What are you setting up? That kind of thing. And then that way it just makes way more sense. It's just, we do have to distinguish a little bit between sort of Web3 publishing. That's a different thing. And but it's fine. It's just that it is quite different thing than, yeah. So, the conversations change. I guess you could just not worry about it and figure out.
What do you see as what distinguishes like Web3 media from Web3 publishing? What's the difference to you in your mind?
In my mind, it's like when you go to the events and people are covering like crypto influencers and the latest NFT projects, and they're covering media to broadcast to the rest of the world about the events, as opposed to like some of the people like that are like journalists that actually are interested in changing the way that from traditional to Web3, and actually making that change and actually changing the way that we report and the way that we investigate stories. And so I think that's the switch, is like it's just about the approach. So like you may have like a Sapien, like when I was at ETH Denver, like Sapien, obviously it's an awesome project, but they were really covering a lot of DAOs and NFT projects, and they're reporting on those projects. So that's less about the face of journalism in Web3. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess I've thought of it as there's so there's media that covers Web3. So like, and that's kind of what PubDAO does, and I think that's what Mati was probably looking for earlier.
Yeah.
And then there's what you're saying, then there's media using Web3 to cover whatever. And like the difficult thing I find is I don't know that we would like totally want to shut out the first one, like that, like say that we don't do any of the first one, because we actually are doing some of that. Like that's like the blockchain the blockchain investigation stuff. Like that is writing about Web3, and I'm actually doing more of that for like my day job, just because I spend so much time in it. It makes sense to be reporting on it as well. So yeah, it's tricky because like the main mission, and I think the animating thing that brings all of us here is the using Web3 as tools for whatever kind of reporting, news, media stuff. But a lot of people assume it's just that we're another Web3, covering Web3. So yeah, it's a tricky, nuanced thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the title, it's like all you do is you really just kind of talk about the mission, and like people get on board with the mission, and it doesn't matter if they're journalists or not. If they are on board, with the mission, then they could be, their job can be a stay-at-home mom, or they can be anybody that actually cares about it. They could be, like you said, on the front lines, doing what you guys do all weekend, protesting or whatever. I think it's really about that kind of movement and mission. So yeah, I'll just clarify that, but like let's change it so that we can really bring in a wider net.
What about empowering journalism through Web3? Is that too fluffy?
Yeah. If you guys are cool with empowering, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and you know what, I apologize that I started sending people there. Like, for whatever reason, it says ONA 2022 Web3 Media Journalism, and like for whatever reason, I always just saw the Web3 Media Journalism part of the group title. But yeah, you're right, it's ONA 2022 right there at the top. So yeah, maybe maybe it has if you could give it a new title, and like in the description, maybe something about that this is a place to discuss and also coordinate meetups for particularly like these next, and here's the next event or something like that. Whatever.
Yeah, so it's Web3 media journalism, and then in the description is empowering. Just this is where you'll find the side events, the leading up to or whatever things happening in the next. Right. Yeah, all good.
A place to discuss and coordinate, online and IRL, something like that.
Cool. Way better.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I had the realization that most people who I think would be using a lot of Telegram groups, they're probably not going to ONA because it's mostly more traditional newsroom people that are going to be there. It's not a Web3 event. So even though like we're hoping to put together a side event that will be Web3 native.
But today when I met with one of my photojournalism professor today and we grabbed coffee, and I've been slowly green pilling him all along the way. And then they had a student that won a big national award doing a big multimedia reporting event on NFTs. So it's already in their conversation. And then I mentioned to him that we were presenting at ONA, and he just kind of, whoa, okay. And then I told him our mission. I tried to get him on this call, but I think he had some stuff to do with his wife. But he asked me to educate him. I'm going to make a document, so I have to teach my teacher on how to install a wallet, how to do the whole thing. And then he wants to know how to get into this. So that was actually really kind of encouraging and exciting today to see that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Does anyone else have anything else that they want to share? My thought was we could maybe get into a few of the things that have been kicking around the forum a couple of the proposals on there, but is there anything people have been working on or hearing, or any updates that you want to share at all? Crickets. Total crickets.
I might mention one thing just that I found interesting that I was working on the other day. So I assume everyone here's heard of the Three Arrows Capital bankruptcy dispute stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of asking this question of what's going to happen with the rest of their fund if they're not going to pay off the debt, because they're still, I haven't found a lot yet because I haven't looked very deeply, but there's still plenty of money floating around in those wallets. And, you know, because this is crypto, they can kind of do whatever they want with it. So I don't expect them, I anticipate they're probably going to take the money and either move it or keep it. But if they're not paying back the debt, they're not going to pay it out. So that's just kind of an interesting question floating around in my head that I'm looking at. I've got a few questions like that surrounding a couple of DeFi protocols that have huge margin calls that have been coming in this month. And if that continues, it's going to continue to affect everything else that's going on. So if the general sentiment that everybody has in crypto is right, and there's going to be more, you know, contraction and consolidation, you're probably going to see a lot of funds getting bought and joining together and getting weird conglomerates over the next year. So tracking where that money goes and who's getting married to who, that's kind of what I'm interested in looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in you know, who comes out, you know, on top. I mean, FTX seems to be doing pretty well at the moment, and it's kind of, yeah, it's interesting who's going to win in the consolidation game. I'd say that's certainly worth following in my mind.
And also just I've been really following everything with Celsius and all the different camps and everything that's happening. And, you know, I mean, this whole situation is absolutely going to change the scope of the way, you know, DeFi operates, and, you know, who the honest players are in the market and what they're going to do. And so I'm actually fascinated with this, and I would love to keep following and follow your investigation on it, if there's a way for me to do that, because I'm really, yeah, it's just blowing me away. The criminal activity is blowing me away.
It's been like this forever.
Have you found
it's all there.
Coinbase? I'm so curious. My gut's just like, I'm so curious if Coinbase is insolvent or close to it, because their whole pairing or merging with USD and USDC is just kind of like, to me, a red flag.
They started doing something. I noticed something that's going on with Coinbase that I don't understand. And I've tried to reserve judgment on some of this stuff because I'm very much an amateur, and there are serious gaps in my knowledge that I'm still trying to work on a personal level. But Coinbase has started setting up these $75 million wallets every week or two. And they're doing this in batches. So there's like 26 of them that come out every 2 weeks. And then they get emptied, and then they do it again and again and again and again. And this has been going on for months. I initially thought somebody was using Coinbase to funnel a lot of money around in fixed amounts, but I'm starting to think that it might just be Coinbase themselves, because I've seen other funds or other exchanges doing similar practices. The one that comes to mind is Bitfinex. I don't know if you saw, I posted a link on the JournoDAO Discord. I'm usually really quiet. When I post something, it's like, because I'm so confused by it, I'm just screaming into the void. I know no one's going to understand it or care. But Bitfinex had this weird high value transaction that Paulo Arduino, the CEO of Bitfinex, and the guy that's kind of heading some of the USDT treasury stuff, he said that this transaction was burned. It was for $4.5 billion in USDT. And then a subsequent transaction for $3 billion, might have been $3.5 billion, that happened like 3 weeks after that. So that's within a month, $7 billion, $7.5 billion. But Etherscan says those transactions went through, and there's nothing to show that they've been burned at all. There's an upgraded address that does redirect to the burn wallet. Like, this is where it gets kind of technical and confusing, but basically the wallet that the funds are transferred from, it goes straight from Tether Treasury to a Bitfinex wallet that is controlled by a multi-sig. So it's like 6 accounts, 3 of them have to approve the transaction for it to go through. And that happened twice for these multi-billion-dollar transactions. Supposedly this was Bitfinex burning Tether. But the wallets that I looked at, there's 6 of them. I documented all 6 of them. And the analytics are breaking when they look at the balances, because the balance for Tether is crazy negative. It's many billions in the negative, but the balance that it shows is like 100,000 USDT or 100 million USDT. And I just can't make sense of it. It's like the most reckless proprietary way to be doing this that I can't understand it. And because it's a multi-sig, it adds an extra layer of confusion to things. So you have to read the smart contract, understand the method involved, and then break down the multi-sig system that they've set up here to like parse what the hell is going on with this crazy amount of money. But I'm not convinced it's been burned. It may have been. The wallet does redirect to a burn address, but I'm just not. Etherscan validated the transaction it went through. The money just disappeared. So I'm a bit confused.
The dates on when that was burned?
Sure, I can send you the whole thing.
Okay, cool. I'm curious just to look and see out in the Twitters what's happening.
I'm sure that this has like a rational explanation that's not that sketchy. It's just very odd that they didn't just send the money straight to the burn address. Why send it to a Bitfinex controlled multi-sig that's, you know, basically gaming the number system so that it has this crazy negative balance and it doesn't show up on the analytics tools. It's very strange. I've never seen anything like it. But I've also never looked at Bitfinex's, you know, multi-sig wallet. So
I just happened to pull up this story, this Cointelegraph story from 2 years ago.
Mhm.
The headline is "Bitfinex is constantly printing more Tether. None of it has ever been burned. A report indicates that no Ethereum-based Tethers have ever been burned, though new ones are constantly being printed." So
I take that for a given. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's different than what you're talking about.
Well, yes and no. I'm talking about a specific example of that's pretty huge in the amounts. That's quite recent, but I have always assumed, based on what I've seen from Tether Treasury, that they are actually just printing money out of thin air and doing what everyone else in crypto does, just claiming that it's something else going on there. So this is the list.
I feel like this is such an important topic, and I feel like there's just an incredible bit of information that we could do, like a Twitter Spaces or something. I don't know if you guys want to do something like that. I just feel like it'd be so worth trying to.
Yeah, Nick, do you cover this kind of stuff on like your GCR calls when you do those?
I actually did cover this on one of those calls, but it's tricky for me because, you know, I'm not a smart contract developer at all. So I have to really caveat what I'm saying. I think you would want someone who knows, who can just tell you what's going on here that I'm missing, because I'm clearly missing something here that's probably got a simple explanation. But if it doesn't have a simple explanation, then this is like a serious lead on something. And I don't think it is intuitively, but I can't prove it one way or the other. So that's the kind of thing that I run into a lot. Also with like the meta transaction stuff, that's something I'm talking to somebody from DiamondDAO about, maybe trying to get in touch with one of his developer friends. Can maybe help me out with that, because that's like decrypting a call within a call on the internal transaction tab of Etherscan. I don't even know if that's possible. And if it is, I certainly couldn't do it on my own. But like people basically set up smart contracts to act as wallets so that they can not have to link their actual wallet addresses to the transactions they're doing. The smart contract automatically executes transactions on their behalf. That's what DS Proxy and Disperse.app and all these other things are doing. Some of them are like fully opaque proxies. Some of them are fully transparent. And then there's all these gray in between areas. But it gets really convoluted and confusing. But yeah, I can talk about that as well.
So I mean, I gather that there's quite a bit of, you know, sketchy stuff going on that you know you could look at Etherscan all day long, and even maybe even a more powerful tool like you're using with Nansen. But there's scams out there where like if you can't, you know, read the smart contract, like you're not going to understand it.
And even if you can, in a lot of cases, the smart contracts people are using are not readable on Etherscan. It's just a hash. There's no, you can't even read it. It's not, Etherscan isn't able to load the smart contract for one reason or another. And that's kind of by design in some cases. So people take a clone of a smart contract that's used to make proxies and they just use it. So you can track the smart contracts that are deployed that do that. That's one method. And I can do that with Nansen, but there's limitations there too. You still have to be able to break the smart contract and like break it down and read it to understand the method IDs, understand like what's public about the transactions and what's going on, that you can maybe call the contract to ask it questions that aren't showing up on Etherscan for you to look at.
I've been wondering lately what the Web3 presence, not Web3, but you know, how many at DEF CON is next month in Las Vegas. And I'm kind of wondering how many people in that world are smart contract developers. I mean, I would imagine there's got to be a significant amount, right?
Quite a few. They're just not going to publicly announce it.
Yeah.
Especially at DEFCON.
The ones that say yes, they're not good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to them.
And I wonder if just running it through multisig, if that's just a way to mask transaction or just like throw a trail off so the trail is not as easy to see, not in a nefarious way, but just in a way so that even if they are doing something above board, it's just like, we don't want to just put it out in the open. So this ends up on CoinDesk, you know? So if we run it,
that's the trend. Absolutely. Absolutely true. Gnosis Safe is probably going to be the future of this. It's the closest thing to privacy you can get.
Yeah.
Except from Gnosis Safe. That's the issue.
I definitely think we should do DEF CON next year, especially with this blockchain investigative, you know, depending on where that little journey goes. It would be fun for us to like drop ourselves in DEF CON and just see. It'd be fun.
I mean, how many of the sessions like there last year had anything to do with crypto and blockchain, I wonder?
I have no idea. Mm-mm.
And none of the people that you talk to, Crystal, they're not really smart contract people, right?
One of them is, he does smart contract dev on Neo, which uses a completely different language than it uses Java and something else, traditional programming languages. But yeah, they're going to Black Hat. But so yeah, there's probably, if it is, it's not super like out in the open. It's just old school traditional hacking. But it would be fun for all of us to wander through there and just see it.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I think it's like the middle of August. It's just there's too much going on. I would like to try to finagle getting there, but
yeah,
it's just too crazy.
I mean, it does feel like the investigative journalism is really about having to understand how to follow the money and follow the wallets. And it just feels like it's such a different skill set that in a bit of a way than, you know, obviously traditional, because, you know, where you would uncover and go hit the streets and, you know, go investigate and research things. Now it's like you've got to be a developer to really understand, or you get stopped. It's a whole nother thing.
Or you get developers to talk to you. You get developers you trust who are interested for whatever reason in talking to a journalist to walk
So
you
who do
through
we
stuff.
know? Who do we know that wants to come on board?
That's what I was asking Crystal.
I've got a few that'll come on board, but they're not gonna, I mean, they'll probably do it off the record. And then you have some that might come on board, but I mean, it just kind of depends on the individual hacker and what their mission is. Like I found that a lot of hackers want to find that money trail and break up, like in a human trafficking scenario, they want to break that money trail so they can stop that social injustice that's happening. So they'll just do it behind the scenes on their own, break that trail, give it to the authorities, drop it where it needs to go, and then go away. They don't want to deal with any media aspect of that. They would just give it to you anonymously.
Yeah.
And that would be the reason to go to DEF CON or it doesn't have to be the big one. I mean, there's similar meetups all over the place.
Yeah, the B-sides are interesting. And then the Hope Conference, that's put on by 2600 magazine. They have that in New York every year, and they do a lot of human rights privacy work. So I think that also would maybe fun to be at DEF CON just to see it all and then to have those conversations organically. But it would be really cool to be at something like the Hope Conference. And if they're still doing it, I don't know if they're doing it because of the pandemic, but that would be interesting because that's more in alignment with our mission. And those are probably conversations that we could have, more easily, especially with Keith's work with his privacy stuff.
Well, so I guess I'm wondering, we're over an hour here. And so there's a handful of things that have gone up on the JournoDAO forum over the last couple weeks. All sorts of questions about, how to handle, some of the, like the giveaway NFTs, should we look for somebody whose main role is to promote DAO members' content? What else? Formalizing a relationship with a FactLand. All kinds of things that have been, kind of kicked around. So I guess I'm wondering if any of the folks that it's mostly Keith and Crystal and me, if you want to dive into any of those things and discuss, or if not, maybe we can call this a meeting for now and do it async. Is there any of those forum posts people are dying to discuss?
I kind of wanted to hear about your idea for the Journo token, Eric,
Oh, right.
like the burning mechanism. So, and I can just present the idea briefly, which is just that, we would set up a site where people can come and, if you want to call it donate or purchase like Journo tokens, and then those can be used to give to people like I would buy some, and then if there's like Twitter accounts or something that I thought were like doing something useful, like somebody went out and investigated something, whatever it is, then I can send them tokens like through this platform. So it'd just be like a server that keeps track of that, and then maybe you come in, like as the owner of the Twitter account, then you could come and verify that you're the owner, connect a wallet address, and then get those tokens. But we could also just keep it kind of like a leaderboard of like Twitter accounts or other social media accounts that have received like the most Journo tokens from people. And that's kind of like where my proposal ended, if I explain that well.
And I mean, that's something that could, I think it has a couple of potential functions. One background, one context thing is, so the Journo token, just to be clear, completely separate from like our our governance token or the NFTs or any other token. So this would be like a purpose minted token for this kind of the purposes of like tipping and recognizing journalists in the wild. And then I think it also, you know, particularly it could have a potential ancillary function of being part of the way that you know, you can establish your credential or get credentialed by JournoDAO, which is something that we've talked a lot about over the months. And then, yeah, my addendum that I think you were referencing, Keith, to that project was that, well, one thing that we could do, you know, so the JournoDAO tokens are for sale for, I don't know, like, you know, 100 tokens for, you know, 10 USDT or something. Maybe not Tether, maybe another one, but
Oh,
so
but before you go on, I forgot to mention that like
Yeah.
this wouldn't be, once the receiver gets the tokens, they cannot then transfer them or sell them or anything. So it'd just be kind of like they stop with that person. So there's no monetary value necessarily once you receive them. So it's not like a tip or something like that.
Right, so it's like the mirror right token was a token that you got from Mirror, but all you could ever do with it was burn it. You couldn't exchange
Right.
it there. So like my addendum to that was, well, we could take some of the revenue from selling these tokens, whatever, it could be 50%, 10%, 20%, doesn't matter. Take like a chunk of the revenue and you know, put it somewhere where it could earn an APY, and then the journalists who receive the JournoDAO token would have the option to then burn those tokens to actually get a chunk of the revenue that those tokens were sold for. So then in that way, you know, it kind of incentivizes, you know, journalists to participate in the system. And I think just you know, it's a way of funding journalists, which is part of our mission, and then kind of incentivizes the whole system a little more. And the APY we probably keep for JournoDAO. It's just a way to make that money productive while it's sitting there waiting for the journalist to burn it. And there could also be an expiration date of some sort, so that they don't just sit there forever. And there's all kinds of ways to handle that. Yeah, that's the concept, I think, as far as the two of us got with it.
Oh, well, now that I understand it, the only thing that I don't like about that is that like you kind of have to give up you have to like cash in your reputation or something like that, where it might be interesting just to like have it like aggregate just endlessly, so that you know, because if a journalist comes in and burns like their tokens, then that's kind of like valuable information. I guess you could still track that somehow, but we could also just like do an airdrop or something proportional to like Journo tokens.
Right. I mean, it could be like a 2 token thing where one token stays attached to the reputation aspect and the other one's redeemable.
Yeah.
But I think it's a super cool project to spin up and experiment with, and you know, build a little attention for you know, pointing journalists towards, you know, that there is this other system that might be able to support your work. I mean, it's kind of like a custom built version of like basic attention token for journalists, really.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much stuff you could do on top of it to match the mission, like the reputation or the credentialing stuff as well. It's just you know, anything to really kind of, you know, build engagement for journalists within the Web3 world, I think is a worthy experiment.
Yeah, it seems like scoped down enough that I could, get something up on a test net relatively easily that we could just play around with.
I mean, it could be, I mean, that could be the workshop at the media party thing in Argentina. Like if there were a version of that, or at ONA, like, that's a month later. Like that could be something to introduce there, gift a bunch of people journo tokens and just let them beta test it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that was like one of the first questions that they had today. My friend had today. I was like, oh, well, how can I enter this space and generate revenue through this model? So I think if you were to experiment with that and show that right off the bat, the credentialing and then also some sort of revenue generation with that token would be really cool.
All right, ship it.
I guess another question would just be like, who the buyers are of it and what that looks like. Like, I think, people who just kind of altruistically want to, give something back to journalists that may or may not. I don't know. It kind of gamifies things a little bit. It gives you a say in like who you think credible journalists are. But I don't know.
I wonder if it's even kind of like a sponsored thing where somebody comes in and sponsors buying a certain amount of tokens that we can gift out to, journalists as well. Like maybe it's something that we can actually get incentive for. And also it gives them a little bit of press or whatever by, saying they've sponsored this awesome journalist or awarded or some sort of, I mean, I'm just saying people love money or love press.
So like one way maybe to like incentivize the buy side of that, incentivize people to buy journo tokens, could be to break it down into topics that people would be a little bit more passionate about supporting. Like maybe it's not just about supporting journalists, a broad spectrum of all journalists, but maybe it's about supporting journalists who are covering wildfires right now. Maybe it's about supporting, journalists who are in Washington, D.C. with a camera staying with their best friend in Chapel Hill. Like you could, I think there's a way to, particularly like Ukraine would have been another one. There could still be another one. Like if it were to be around topics where people are going to be passionate and feel incentivized to give, that would probably do better than just like journalists in general. And I've worked with wire services where that's like the entire business model. It's like, you're not just, if it was a nonprofit and you're not just donating to our nonprofit wire service, you're donating to see coverage of this issue that's important to you.
Ooh, that's really good actually. Because you can shift the sort of what it is that the lens a bit, what you want to, you can buy the news.
Right. Well, there's a reason I don't work for that wire service anymore, which
I'm just joking.
Well, that model, it's like all in balancing how specific it is. Because the reason I left that wire service is it became so specifically targeted that it was like, okay, we are covering these issues that are important to the Sierra Club right now. And then that's kind of like, okay, now the Sierra Club just bought the news, which worse things could happen, but it's also not really the way it should work.
what about like a Gitcoin grant round for, like if you created some sort of thing that looked like that Gitcoin grant round where journalists put their projects out, and then you've got people that could come donate to them, pick the ones they want to support, and then it becomes just like with Gitcoin grants, it just becomes the thing that you want to say, this is where my money went. And then you send those journalists out and then they go document, or you do it after the fact. Like they documented it. Here it is. These are the projects that I supported. That'd be a lot of programming, Keith, for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing about a token is you can add all this stuff on like after the fact. So maybe like if we just try and use it as like a reputation token that's given out by, I don't know, people who just want to support journalists, even though it's like not giving them money directly, but it's kind of giving people this this permanent like certification of trust in the area of journalism that can then be targeted for like airdrops or benefits or whatever it is later on, either by us or other people. And so it's not like a tangible thing that you're giving to the journalist, but it's kind of like JournoDAO is saying like, this is the token that we kind of stand behind, and this is how it should be used, and we'll just kind of like see how people respond and use it, like if at all. And then we can, I think if we just start with like a leaderboard of and kind of create that social feedback loop of like, oh well, this person's at the top of the leaderboard, but I actually think that this person over here is a better journalist, so I'm gonna like pay my $5 to get some Journo tokens and send them to this journalist or whatever. I think that's an interesting place to start, and is like relatively straightforward, but then yeah, it could go, you can keep adding kind of like complexity onto that.
So now I'm kind of reflecting on two things, which is maybe it makes the most sense to try to decouple the monetary part of it that I was suggesting, particularly at the beginning, might be cleaner to not have that as like a pure experiment, just to like see what people do with the token, like you're saying. And then where my mind goes is how I feel about positive or negative about leaderboards, because they're really a powerful thing. I don't know if anyone has ever gone to Tech Meme, but it's like if you're a tech journalist, Tech Meme has like it's an aggregator of tech stories. It's been around forever, and it is like the ultimate dopamine factory for a tech journalist, because they have like a leaderboard and they have like all kinds of stats on every tech outlet and tech reporter and how much they've been featured. And there's other ones like it out there. So it's interesting, like whether leaderboards are great for growth of a project like that. I'm trying to decide if they're great for journalism or not. I don't know.
It'd be great if they had a JournoDAO one.
A JournoDAO
Instead,
technique.
if I was looking at all of the things that we categorized and just created a new category of the way things are measured, as opposed to like who
I see.
publishes the most stories. But the leaderboard is actually, built around criteria that is more, transparency, authenticity, like all the things that you value in web, this movement, Web3 tools.
You know, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but Keith actually built a JournoDAO leaderboard, but then he wouldn't let anyone else but himself be measured on it. So he's been on the top of our leaderboard from the very beginning. It's weird. I don't know.
Well, no, you're on there so that I can be at the top. It shows I'm clearly better than you.
But that
It's
would be
just
a
the-
powerful tool.
The criteria, I
You know,
don't tell anybody what the criteria is.
Have you been in Discord servers that use Me6?
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's like it's like one of those like completely meaningless like metrics, but people always check it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can game it by just typing GM every day.
Yeah. Well, this seems hard to game, and I think like maybe the mechanic is that since I mean we wouldn't be able to like Sybil protect it that much off the bat, but theoretically, like you can't buy tokens and send them to yourself would be the idea. And so if you're receiving these tokens, then I guess you could like campaign people to buy them and send them to you, which might be interesting. But yeah, I think it's worth like trying it and seeing if it's just like incentivizing the wrong kind of thing.
Yeah, I love the social experiment aspect of it. And yeah, exactly. I'd be curious just to see which sides of human nature it exacerbates, you know.
Hopefully it would be more of like a gratitude token than like
Right.
a new form of like gatekeeping where I don't know, you just like essentially like you could buy Twitter followers, you can just like gain these reputation mechanisms. So I'll do some research, see what else is out there.
I mean, I think one of the like more successful examples of that is like maybe Karma on Reddit. Because there is basic attention token. I don't know how widely used that actually is. I don't think a whole lot of people use it, but it's funny. There's like Web 2 examples of it. Like the Huffington Post used to have like something similar that was actually wildly successful. That was just strictly like status, and I think you might have gotten more. You got better placement for stuff that you wrote, I think maybe. And then there's benefits for like Reddit's system. And the benefits, the way Reddit works, actually, it works pretty well. Like it really does seem to surface the best stuff, and it does, and it kind of keeps the spammy stuff keeps that out of the mix.
I would disagree on that one.
No, okay. On Reddit specifically?
Specifically on Reddit.
Okay.
The marketing that's going on there though is highly sophisticated. It'd blow your mind. I'd love to talk to you about it sometime.
Okay. Is that marketing on the side of Reddit, or people using Reddit for marketing?
Basically people masquerading as users to push marketing agendas on Reddit. So they build reputation, they game the karma systems. And a lot of the times this involves co-opting Reddit as like, a business partner. So they might look the other way if they're shilling stuff on a certain subreddit, like our cryptocurrency, for example, is a really, really bad resource for getting accurate information. I learned this because I was looking at Origin Trail. Their marketing team are genius. They're really, really good at their job.
Oh well, leave it to crypto to ruin to ruin what was once a good system, I guess.
I think what crypto actually does is it just highlights all these corruption mechanisms that already existed. But in crypto, it's so ubiquitous and there's so much money on the line that it's creating this like blatant disregard for privacy or sneakiness.
Yeah, and I think it varies by community. Like you're saying, like there's some pretty low stakes like communities where like the karma system and badges and stuff just like work pretty well to like surface authentic content because it's not really of any interest to marketers, or there's really no like ROI on it. So I think there's something there. But there's definitely like attack vectors that you need to try and anticipate.
When because social metrics are used to like show the health of a project, projects tend to never disincentivize people from flooding in, even if they know they're there.
Right.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think that's the crux of it, right? Is if the incentive of whatever project you're a part of, if like the key metric you're always looking for is growth, versus, you know, core principles and core values or mission, like if the mission's secondary, the mission's going to be compromised, right?
I mean, it depends on your timeline for the company's existence. Like even internally, the figures might make a marketing department look really good for a while. I can't say more than that.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth like, you know, trying to.
Oh, wait, Nick, why can't you say more than that?
Yeah.
I just left an employer, so I'm trying to be a little careful on that one.
Okay, we'll grant you that. So here in this chat going back and forth, there's now this conclusion that this kind of feedback is credible only if no one cares,
Yes.
right? Like it's supportable if the results are not meaningful to anybody.
Yeah, if there's, or at least if there's not big amounts of money on the line.
Well, that's, I mean, yeah, not you, if it's not wielded as a money generating or money justifying tool.
I mean, I do think that's kind of the bottom line. That's probably up for debate.
So therefore, we need to make the JournoDAO reporting feedback loop useless, and then it'll be useful.
In a way, yeah, that's why I said earlier, maybe I would retract my idea of journalists being able to actually get a financial payout from the tokens they receive.
Yeah, and to Eric's point, like that's kind of the downside of the leaderboard idea is like if the leaderboard and being at the top of it does become valuable, then you get those corruption games basically. So it's like the question is like how you deliver value directly to, well, I guess maybe that would be the reason this might succeed is like if it's an individual journalist at the top of the leaderboard, then if they kind of sell out or whatever, then theoretically they would drop down from the top of the leaderboard.
What if the token gave them exposure for their stories? What if that was the incentive? We created some sort of mechanism where if you have more tokens that have been granted to you because of the work you've done, and that work gets put in the forefront of something, like some wire service or just some mechanism that amplifies story instead of monetary reward. And then within that, the journalist can then have their collection button or whatever within it. Or then maybe after that, the community could come together and say, okay, here's a monetary, compensation because this story or this group of stories was so powerful.
I think that's what the leaderboard would kind of provide. Like if people go to the leaderboard to see who's at the top, then you're going to probably click through to see that person's stories, or we could like give everyone on the leaderboard like a single post link that they could update or something with their latest. Yeah, I don't know. All good things to worry about, but I got to hop off now. But this has been super helpful for like that idea, I think, at least. So I'll let you know how it goes in next town hall.
Great. Well, yeah, maybe we can move the discussion to the forum and kind of keep it up there.
Yeah. All right. See you guys. Thanks for
Bye.
the call. All right, bye.
I'm about at the end of my availability as well, but any last thoughts?
Oh, I'm just gonna note. In the music business, how the idea of users being able to have more choice really proved not to be a desire of the market. And there are, I wonder about things like leaderboards and such that are watched by a small part of the community, but maybe the actual news consuming market doesn't want to make these choices. They want to find influencers that they can trust to make these choices.
And they're all bad. Crooks, they're crooks. They're all crooks. I'm convinced.
Excellent. Perfect wrap up. All right, I'm going to jump as well.
Okay, thanks, Miles. I do think rather than like thinking of it as influencers, which has, you know, like I mean,
Bad choice of words. Yeah,
well, yeah, it just smells like corruption. I mean, because of what's happened to the term in our culture. But I mean, I kind of think
gatekeepers, credible,
right.
credible
Like,
gatekeepers.
you know, journalism is still about gatekeeping, or like, and as we move forward in the 21st century, I think it becomes increasingly about, you know, curation, being curators, which is another way of that is a highbrow way of saying gatekeeper. You know, that's still really the main function of a journalist is to vet the fire hose of information and try to verify what seems real and true and credible, and try to just only let that stuff through, you know, so that you're not just swimming in the ocean of shit that is out there. Like, I kind of still think that is our role, and it's morphing a lot, but essentially that's still what it's all about.
Eric, are you recording? Is this being recorded?
Yes.
I would tell you to transcribe your last paragraph.
Okay.
Put that high up in the JournoDAO intention someplace, because what you just worded, I think, is much more succinct than some of the things I've seen.
I appreciate that. Well, I guess I know what I'll tweet tomorrow morning.
All right, bye all.
Thanks, everybody.